Welcome back to Get Down to Business. And today we are joined by Howard Lewis, the author of the book, Leave Your Phone at the Door, The Joy of Offline. In a world increasingly dominated by technology and social media, Howard argues for the importance of real life, offline interactions, and believes that cultivating genuine human connection is crucial for personal and professional success. In an age of algorithms and AI, Howard has quite the background as a successful entrepreneur and art collector. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that background. But today, Howard, I'm excited to have you on the program so we can have some good connection with all of our listeners. Welcome to the program.
Good afternoon. Pleasure to be with you. Look forward to sharing some of my insights with your audience.
Absolutely. Howard, in your book, you advocate for leaving your phone at the door. In a world where technology is so deeply ingrained in our lives, why? Why is it so crucial to disconnect and prioritize real-life interaction?
I think the first thing to say is that human beings are social animals. It's the way we're wired. And I think the idea that somehow you separate yourself from people by the use of technology is actually quite destructive. Obviously, technology has many uses, but the reliance upon it all the time at the expense of personal connections, I think is actually very damaging. And you particularly see it today with young people who seem to be unable to either greet you, recognize you, or interact in the most regular fashion.
Oh, so true. And again, I'm chatting with Howard Lewis. And Howard, you have founded Invaluable, a leading online auction platform, but you now champion the power of face-to-face interactions through the offline dinner gatherings. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the next few minutes. But certainly, I've been researching you, and you've experienced success in both the digital and the physical realms, having founded an online platform like Invaluable, while also emphasizing the importance of offline connections. How do you reconcile these seemingly opposing forces?
Look, I don't think online is necessarily a bad thing. Obviously, I did help create Invaluable, and obviously it's gone on to thrive in various guises. Clearly, technology plays a part in all our lives, whether, frankly, we are booking flights or we're using the microwave or we are driving our car. That's all technology. I think the issue around personal technology, which is a little bit different, is something which I think has become more and more pervasive. And what's happened, sadly, is that people have forgotten how to interact. They've forgotten the simple tools of engagement, how to greet people, how to smile, how to say please and thank you, how to ask people how they're doing. These aren't very difficult, but nevertheless, the obsession with the now and the immediate is such that people almost become a little bit scared to interact in case things go wrong. It's almost as though the boundaries have become very difficult to discern, and therefore people find it easier to retreat in a personal capacity into the security of their own systems online.
And can you share some practical tips for readers of your book on how to cultivate more meaningful offline connections in their daily lives?
Look, on a practical basis, I would simply say to you, walk on the opposite side of the street for a change to the station. You still arrive at the same destination, but along the way you may discern again the different contour of the road. You may see different people walking their dog or kids going to school. These are all small things, nothing very radical or dramatic, but what it does do is it changes your perspective. And most people tend to be very, very prescriptive in terms of what they do, where they go, what time they do it, who they're with. And in a sense, that element of surprise and spontaneity has been sapped because of the fact that the technology is regarded as being somehow superior to a real-life experience. It provides an element of protection. And to be honest with you, most people are far more concerned with what may go wrong than may go right. And therefore, they tend to avoid anything which is a bit different, a bit unfamiliar, something they don't quite understand.
I'm chatting with the author of Leave Your Phone at the Door, The Joy of Offline, and it's Howard Lewis, who entered the stock market at 18 and has quite the impressive resume. And I love that advice that you just shared, Howard. Just literally cross the street, take a different route. I talk about that on this program all the time. But how do you see the ability to build strong relationships impacting both personal and professional success?
Look, I think the bottom line is very simple, and that is that people do business with other people. They don't do business with technology. They don't do business with systems. They don't do business with algorithms. They actually do business with people. And although the technology certainly advantageous, of course, I would never deny that, the fact of the matter is, there is a sense that people need to have that kind of physical engagement. You can work in a corporation and you can send an email or a text message to somebody who actually is only 3 floors below. What you can also do, of course, is get off your chair, walk down 3 flights of stairs and talk to them face to face. But somehow people become lazy, they become very ingrained, they become very entrenched in their own particular system or methodology, and somehow it becomes almost a kind of an epidemic. If more people do it, somehow it becomes more justified. And I think you see that most people, if you give them the opportunity, would welcome the chance to actually talk with you, go for a walk around the block, go and get a coffee, share maybe an interesting story or a recommendation of a book or a film. Most people actually want that. But somehow, because of the fact that people have become deeply immersed in the online world and have given this kind of lie in a way that it's always superior to real life. And in particular, it's very troubling to see young people who are simply unable to master the basics of communication. And again, it's not difficult to go to somebody and say, please or thank you. You don't want to go and study how to do it. Even something as simple, frankly, as the act of smiling. Smiling is a very powerful emotional tool, and somehow people are very fearful it'll be misinterpreted, people will think they're a bit weak, or they're on the wrong track, and therefore it doesn't happen enough. There's a fear of what may go wrong, and it's partly because in the modern world, everything is benchmarked, everything is rated, everything is scrutinized, everything is surveyed, and actually there's a sense that you're never quite able to do your own thing without any consequence, and it limits people, and that for me is a big problem. I think if there were less use of the phone, not no use, just less of it, people will be a lot happier. I mean, even up to the simple extent that people who take their phone to bed with them. Crazy. Why would you want to do that? Take a book. Listen to some music. Why have your phone with you all the time? It's buzzing and beeping, may wake up in the middle of the night. Your sleep will be a lot better for sure without having the phone distracting you all the time.
Yeah, and you're touching on something that was going to be my next question and talking about some of the biggest challenges that you see in our society today when it comes to building genuine human connection. And as you say in the book, we all communicated perfectly well face to face for thousands of years before digital media ever showed up. But like you say, a significant swath of our population struggles with that notion of direct contact and its consequences. So you're bringing us back to the basics with a timely and a topical reminder to look beyond our phones and enjoy the physical benefits of community, randomness, and serendipity, which is incredible. The book is Leave Your Phone at the Door, The Joy of Offline. And speaking of offline, we talked a little bit about it. I know you do these offline dinner gatherings. Can you tell us more, Howard, about these events and how they contribute to fostering meaningful human connection?
Yes, a pleasure. I started doing it about 15 years ago, and the premise was very simple. If you simply bring together 25 or 30 bright, interesting people in a room, regardless of background, regardless of aptitude, regardless of age, color, anything you like, they will find their own way. They will create their own magic. And what I did, which was most important of all, I gave people permission to be vulnerable. I said at the outset, I am reliably useless at most things, and so probably everybody else here, different ways, but that's fine too. What matters most of all is actually finding that point of connection. Wherever you go in the world, you will find that people are fundamentally the same, just a bit different. There's actually far more that connects people than separates them. But the tendency to label one another is all too evident, and therefore it limits people. It means you actually turn away from people who might be fascinating and great company, and from whom you may learn, who want to hear your thoughts and insights, and yet you convince yourself that's not appropriate. So at Offline, I can tell you, the age range of attendees over 15 years was 70 years. The youngest person ever came was 16 years of age. The oldest was 86. Both great in their own way, and I had a multitude of people in between from every possible walk of life, whether in politics or business or tech or fashion or art, people running charities, people who were maybe retired or they were in academia. I didn't really care. What I cared very much indeed, this is really the essence of Offline, I cared that people were givers. They were interested in other people. They were curious about the world. They shared fresh perspectives. That really, in a sense, is the core. Offline, fundamentally, is a celebration of the virtues of randomness and serendipity. And a bit more of that generally around the world, and a little less use of the mobile, I think would be good for everybody.
100%. Howard, speaking of getting people off their devices, I want people to find your book and to get in touch with you. How can they get this fantastic read?
The best way to do it actually is to go to my LinkedIn profile. Just look me up on LinkedIn. There's a link there to Linktree, which gives links to publishers and online Amazon and other sources and so forth. So it's all there. And obviously, if I can help or share other insights regarding offline in the future, be delighted to speak.
Okay, perfect. Howard Lewis. Again, the book is The Joy of Offline. We'll link in our show notes. Coming up after a quick break, lots more small business, jobs, and entrepreneurship. Don't touch that dial.